Hello and welcome to another week here on Go Ballistic on the Scottish Sun Sport YouTube channel. As you can see, Robert Grieve is once again with us this week. Roger Hanna once again not here.
Still on holiday.
Anyone heard from him?
No, not a word. Not a dicky bird. Still sunning himself. That big head of his.
Absolutely. Not as if anything's been happening here.
No,
just a small matter of an Old Firm game.
He does pick the weeks, doesn't he, John? He does pick the weeks.
He does indeed. Now you were very much working yesterday because you were at Ibrox, the final Old Firm game of the season. Not quite the usual full throttle Old Firm game one may be used to. What did you make of it as you were watching
it
on?
Was probably pretty much the game we expected it to be, in all honesty. The season's over in terms of the league title race. We know that's done and dusted. Has been for a while. Obviously Celtic clinched it last week at Tannadice, and I pretty much thought it was a game we were going to get. Nothing at stake. Both teams gave it as good as they got to a certain extent. And in all honesty, I think kind of one each was the right result, and maybe just the result both teams were kind of satisfied with at the end. Albeit Celtic had a fantastic chance right at the death, right in the last seconds of the game in stoppage time. Diza Maida probably kicking himself, but then it's been a decent season for him, isn't it? So he can maybe just about forgive him. I think Brendan Rodgers said that after the game in terms of what he's contributed to the team. But yeah, that was a big chance. But pretty much the game I thought we were going to get.
Obviously, Maida did manage to end the night with a smile on his face. He got that PFA Scotland Player of the Year award. I think everyone was probably expecting him to get that after the season he's had. But as you say, 33 goals this season. Just the way that happened, bearing down on goal. I don't think there was a single person in that stadium that didn't think that was going to end up in the back of the net.
He just took a bad touch, didn't he? Right at the death. He did brilliantly to burst forward, and he was getting away from James Tavernier. You thought, right, the next, once he makes that touch, he's going to get a shot on goal. He just had a heavy touch right at the death. I think if he was to have that situation again, he would play a pass to his right hand side. Young Johnny Kenny was there waiting for a pass.
He was screaming for the ball, wasn't he?
He was probably, his eyes were lighting up probably at that moment. But yeah, the ball ran away from him. He tried to ground Liam Kelly, but in fairness, I thought Liam Kelly did really well. He did really well early in the game as well with the Idah Dessers chance. I felt he should have done better, albeit, as I say, I think Liam Kelly did really well. But yeah, a big chance for him. I think when he thinks back on it, he'll maybe think he should have slid the ball to his right.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he won't have the chance to do it again. But the two players that did get in the score sheet, Cyriel Dessers and Idah, two very well taken goals. What do you make of them generally during the game? Yes, two strikers that certainly have had a lot of criticism in recent times, but both, once again, finding the score sheet in a big game. Yeah,
well, Idah, first of all, he had a great chance early on in the game, busting through James Forrest to his right, remember. And you're thinking if he plays right past the Forrest he was in, Forrest obviously looking for that goal that will continue his run, 16 seasons in the bounce to score for Celtic. He didn't play the pass with the right weight. I think it was Liam Balogun, I think it might have been who got across, made a challenge. He should have done better in that moment. He's then put through in goal near the end of the first half. He's 1-on-1 with Liam Kelly. Again, he's a slight slip, I think. I've not actually seen it back, but I think he's a slight, from memory, he's a slight slip. He loses his footing slightly, excuse me. And but again, for me, he should do better. A £9 million striker, centre forward, worth his salt, takes those chances, and I think, albeit he gets a chance later on, and he did really well for his goal, to get a good touch and then finish it. I think still there'll be elements of the Celtic support, and I think Brendan Rodgers will be still looking at the striking situation in the summer and very much looking to improve that area of the pitch, that area of the team. Idah's got something. He's got something. I don't think he should be discarded by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not the out-and-out goal scorer I think Celtic will be looking for, and I think that's certainly an area that Brendan Rodgers will be looking to strengthen this summer.
And on the other side, Dessers also scoring again. You were speaking to him and talking about his future and everything. He's kind of saying now, the criticism bothered him at first. It doesn't so much now. But he's very happy with his record, isn't he? That's what comes across when he speaks.
I've got a lot of admiration for Cyriel Dessers, in all honesty. He's a guy who he comes across as a gentleman. He strikes me as a really good guy. If you look at his goals tally, 25 goals this season, I think it's 47 in 2 years. He makes the point that had Rangers fans been offered that when he signed for the club 2 years ago, they'd have bitten a hand off it and said that's the kind of striker we need. And his goal, those stats do suggest that he's a good player and a good centre forward. He's got to do more from me. He misses far too many chances. I think someone was telling me, we were at the game, I think Sky Sports pointed out that before his goal yesterday, I think he touched the ball 4 times.
Yeah, that was correct.
4 times.
Yeah.
Now, I know that happens a lot. If you look at maybe Erling Haaland and these guys, that maybe happens a lot. Top level strikers these days maybe don't get as much game involvement as they maybe did in years gone by. But we're actually watching the game, and I referenced it to Derek McGregor, who was sitting to my right, that before he scored, he was completely anonymous in the game. He had no involvement. As I say, stats do point to someone who does know how to find the net. He's done it in European games as well for Rangers. But again, for me, when the takeover happens at Rangers and it gets completed, which it will do in the coming weeks, and a new manager comes in, whoever that may be, I think centre forward is another area that will have to look to strengthen. There'll be a number of areas of the Rangers team, the squad, they have to bring improvement. But yeah, for me, they need a better centre forward, better striker than Cyriel Dessers.
Well, you mentioned the new manager there, Robert. It seems to be a weekly sort of question across various platforms. Who's getting this job? Is Barry Ferguson in it? Once again, he was very bullish yesterday in that media conference, kind of calling out a lot of his doubters and stuff as he was making another pitch as to why he should get this job, why he wants to keep that job. Once again, where we stand now, what is the situation? Do you see him actually being a contender for this job as it stands right now? I
wouldn't rule him out as a contender, in all honesty. I think as things stand, as I'm led to believe, there's no firm decisions made on the Rangers management in terms of going forward. But I'm also led to believe that there's been no real formal conversations behind the scenes with Barry Ferguson and his coaching staff. That has to change. You would have to imagine that the first conversation Kevin Thelwell, the sporting director, has is with Barry Ferguson. I would suspect that will happen. That said, if they have other targets and other names in mind, maybe in their mind, in the takeover consortium, in their heads, maybe Barry Ferguson isn't a contender. Maybe they already know someone that they plan to appoint. But as things stand, I don't think that is the case. And as I understand it, Barry Ferguson is hoping to have that kind of conversation with Kevin Thelwell and the guys there. Obviously, the consortium the key men in the consortium were in Glasgow last week. The wheels are very much in motion. Still my understanding that everything's progressing as they expect it to do. And as I say, things will be finalised in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would imagine. Barry Ferguson's put himself in a position where I think he's got a chance of getting the job. For me, results have to be taken into consideration. I don't think you can gloss over the fact that there's been real lacklustre performances there. He hasn't got the tune out of the players that he would have expected to get. But that said, I've gone on record before, I think Barry Ferguson does have something to offer in management. I think it'll be a real shame actually if he does leave Rangers and gives up management altogether, which I think he will do if he doesn't get the job. But yeah, he's in contention, but I would say just.
Okay, well, we will watch that space now. Celtic obviously crowned champions before that game yesterday. We saw the Championship champions crowned on Friday. Falkirk getting that 3-1 win over Hamilton to get over the line. In the end, didn't really matter because Livy couldn't hold up their end of the bargain. But what a night for Falkirk. Did stutter towards the end, but they got it over the line, and I don't think there's anyone out there that could really deny them or say they were not the best team in that division this season. No. Very well deserved. They had the stumble, obviously we spoke about this last week, and potentially what could have happened if they didn't turn up in that final game. But no, they got the job done. They were put under pressure earlier on. I thought Hamilton, you think of all the trials and tribulations they've had in the last few weeks. Obviously relegation confirmed the day before with their failure to win their appeal. They put up a good fight, a good honest fight. They took the lead, they put Falkirk under real pressure. And at that point you're thinking, wow, could this really be the bottle job of all bottle jobs? But no, credit to them. John McGlynn has done a brilliant job. As you say, named PFA Manager of the Year last night at their award ceremony here in Glasgow. Thoroughly deserved. A number of candidates in the running for that. Brendan Rodgers, David Gray, amongst others. But yeah, I think John McGlynn, he'll be a popular winner amongst the managers. I know he's a popular guy. And I don't think anyone can begrudge him that, given the job he's done there. Long time since Falkirk were in the Premier League and the Premiership. They've come back up. I think they'll be good additions to the league. Getting towards obviously just 3 games to go in the season now. Another bad weekend for St Johnstone, losing to Kilmarnock.
Yeah, they're gone. Just gone.
Yeah. Kelly, on the other hand,
next.
Kelly, on the other hand, has that then made themselves as good as safe?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. Yeah, yeah, very much so. That was a big result for them. Derek McInnes, I think he spoke after the game and how he wasn't too worried about relegation or the threat of relegation. He's talking nonsense. He was worried about it. It was something they had to get assured and get over the line, and I think they've pretty much done that. They're not out of it. They're not out of it. Kind of. Arithmetically, I was going to say mathematically, but it's not mathematically, it's arithmetically. Old Tom Henry line there for the older viewers. They're still not out of it. They still could, in theory, get dragged into it, but I think they'll be fine. But St Johnstone, sorry, Saints fans, Robert Thompson, our colleague, they're gone. Championship club now.
There we go. It is looking very bleak indeed, and Dundee certainly not out of it either. Now, got to talk about Dundee because that is where the controversy was.
Was
well,
it?
Not everyone, I was going to say, thinks it was controversy.
Describe controversy.
Now, if you've not seen it, Antonio Portales rifles in a brilliant goal. Dundee go 1-0 up.
Fantastic.
Then just before half-time, he pretty much does the identical.
Carbon copy.
Carbon copy, got in top corner.
Albeit there was somebody offside.
There was somebody offside. That was the
end of
ultimate
conversation.
Decision. Well,
Johnny, come on.
There's been a big conversation about it, hasn't there?
Okay. Yeah.
You know, so Portales fires it in, just for anyone that's not seen it. Motherwell's Dom Thompson clears the ball.
Yep.
Not a great clearance. And then Portales scores from that.
Yeah.
Clark Robertson, who's behind Dom Thompson, is the man that's flagged offside after VAR intervention. So you thought it was the correct decision?
It was a correct decision. It absolutely was a correct decision. I'm baffled to the outcry over this. I have to say, I'm baffled by it. Referees are there to be shot down in any day of the week. Charge in, fill your boots. Not this week, they're not. Not in that instant, they're not. Tony Docherty, again, someone I've got a huge amount of respect for. He talks a lot of sense. He was offside. His man was offside. There would have been an easier clearance had Clark Robertson not been offside, had he not stepped forward and gestured or moved into a situation where he was affecting play. For me, it was a fairly straightforward decision. I think if that wasn't overturned, if VAR didn't intervene and call that as an offside, I think there would be a bigger outcry.
Just playing devil's advocate.
No, never mind. You actually think it was a wrong decision?
I found it a very questionable decision.
Why?
Because, well, what I would have liked to have seen happening there would have been the referee sent to the monitor. Now, offside is a factual decision,
I would agree with that.
But there is subjectivity here.
Yeah.
In the sense that I don't think you can. I think the referee should have been allowed to make the final decision on the level of interference Clark Robertson has in that. Because I think Thompson has to go and clear that ball anyway. Because Joe Shawknessy's right there to score. Yes, that brings in the offside situation again. But I think I'd have liked to have seen the referee allowed to make that final decision on the actual interference.
And what decision should he come to?
Well, I don't like seeing goals disallowed for. Nobody claimed
for offside.
For offside.
Part of the game.
It's part of the game.
I tell you what, I don't necessarily disagree with you. And I tell you another thing. I was at St Mirren game on Saturday. I just went to watch the game, and Aberdeen had a goal chalked off. Ball comes in. Kevin Nisbet goes for it. It hits his hand. It falls to someone else. I can't remember who scores. It goes to VAR, and it's given. It goes to VAR, and the referee looks at it. Now, again, like the Dundee one, it's a factual. It should be a factual. It hits his hand. It's disallowed. Very similar to the one at Dens Park. But the referee actually did go across to the monitor. Did look at it, and in my understanding, that his explanation on that was that he wanted, if there's a goal going to be disallowed in a game, he wanted to know why. He wanted to have an involvement in why. Fair enough. I do not have a problem with that. But I think the long and short of it is that it comes back to, for me, it was the right decision. He was offside. Pure and simple.
Okay, well, you've got to go and speak to Kris Boyd.
I need to speak to Tony Docherty. That's my problem now. Next time I speak to him.
Your problem's me. This isn't finished. This is continuing when you get back in that newsroom.
Okay.
But anyway, you've got to go and speak to Boydie.
Yeah.
So we'll go and
see what he thinks.
See what he thinks. I'm looking forward to seeing
a hungover Boydie, it has to be said.
Oh dear, really?
Yeah.
Late
PFA Awards last night, catching up with him. He's not as young as he used to be.
Oh dear.
Catch up with Boydie shortly.
Well, you've only got about 30 seconds to wait for that. But until then, have a look at the great one-on-one Derek McGregor did with Eddie Gray last week. Everyone's loving this one. Here's a little snippet of what you can get.
You're a big Celtic man. You've got the 49ers Enterprises here. Parag,
I know.
Tell me, have you had chats with him about what's about to happen with Rangers and obviously Parag's involvement soon to be with Rangers?
No, but when it happens, I'll probably walk in here with my green and white scarf on.
Morning, Boydie. Great to see you. You look a little bit tired and weary. A late night, was it last night at the Scottish PFA Awards? A few drinks too many, Boydie. Looks like it.
No, I don't drink, mate. It's a good evening, though, but I don't drink. Next.
Late night, was it? You like a glass of red wine. Who are you kidding?
No.
It
It
looked
was,
like
it was an enjoyable night. It was an enjoyable night. Yeah, good to see the guys pick up their awards. Thoroughly deserved. I thought over the course and distance of the season, Maeda was by far the best player in Scotland. I don't think there'll be many people argue with that, Robert. Nicholas couldn't start the season really well, but kind of tailed off towards the end. Maeda has been consistent, whether it's been in that left-hand side, right-hand side, through the middle. He scored goals, and obviously Callum McGregor was there as well in terms of in the running for it. But for me, Maeda was deservedly named the PFA Scottish Player of the Year last night.
Boy, do we have our fun with you? We have our jokes and our banter, but you were a top centre forward, a top striker. How do you rate Maeda as a forward player, in all honesty?
I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we've seen him play out wide so often, and he's so effective there as well. Then he goes through the middle, and his pace just terrifies people. And I think that is the thing that everybody looks at. His pace, but I think he's improved. I think his all-round game's improved. I think his link-up play has improved. His finishing's definitely improved, because a lot of the times, when he was going through, he felt as if there is a chance that he could possibly miss this. But that has improved this season, especially. Whether that's working with Brendan Rodgers, playing a different style to Ange Postecoglou did in the past. But you look as if, it looks as if to me as if he's enjoying his football, and that always helps as well. When Brendan spoke after the game yesterday and said he had just flown back in from Japan, and he was straight into the team. That says a lot when a manager's willing to do that, when you've travelled that far. And I know it's a big game, but when you've been away for that period of time, and you've flown back, long flight, and straight in the team, that shows you a manager's got trust in you. And I always think that goes a long way to for players anyway, because they feel as if they need to repay that the faith that managers have sometimes shown in them. But for me, listen, take nothing away from Dyson Maeda this year. I think his qualities that everyone spoke about in the past, in terms of his work rate, his speed, he's added to that this year. I think for me, his all-round game has improved. His touch, we touched on there, and the most important thing, in front of goal, he seems to be a lot more calmer, not rushing things, and I think his numbers, show and reflect that.
We'll come to Rangers in a minute, Boyd, and how they think how they might change things in the summer and what it might look to improve on. But from a Celtic point of view, how do you think Brendan Rodgers will look at it? Because he's obviously got Dyson Maeda there who plays off the left, but who can also play through the middle and score goals. And he's got Adam Maeda there also. Missed a good chance yesterday at Ibrox, but then scores a goal. Do you think that's an area of the pitch he will be looking to strengthen this summer?
Yeah, I think Celtic will bring in a striker. For me, I think they need to. When you've lost someone like Kyogo and what he brought to the team, and I know it's been, they brought in Jota, but he's going to be out now for a long period of time as well. There's been speculation regarding Nicholas Kuhn, especially round about January, maybe going into summer, because Celtic's model, the way they do things, that you would expect a player to leave and get in a sizable fee for whoever it is. That doesn't mean it, because it's happened so often, it doesn't mean it needs to happen. And Brendan Rodgers might feel as if if he can convince the board that we've sold a lot of players recently for big money. We've been able to bring in players in free contracts that have done really well. That will do well. I think obviously Kieran Tierney springs to mind. And you would imagine Celtic might look to. I think even over the past seasons, they've always used that loan market as well. So there's something there that they might look to do to bulk up the squad if they need to. But I think for me, looking at it, they will want to bring in a striker, because it's great to have that luxury of he can play left, he can play through the middle. But there is no doubt, for me anyway, right now, I know Kyogo was a total different type player, but Celtic are a better team when Maeda's through the middle. But now looking at it, because of that injury to Jota, then he might have to he will find himself back in that left-hand side. Jamesy Forrest came in and played a few games, and done well. Nicholas Kuhn's been out there, but I think for Adam Idah, I mean, I said it after the game yesterday as well, Robert. And listen, I got it myself, in games, and when people started speaking about what your all-round game was and your link-up play, and Idah and Dessers are similar. They seem to get criticised no matter what they do, but both of them have left the game scoring goals yesterday. And I mean, what is it, 18 goals from Adam Idah? His numbers are good, but you look at was it James Forrest in the first half when Celtic break away? That pass has to be made. Made. There's a couple of chances as well. Then when he goes through one and one, it's a good save. Kelly comes out and makes himself big, and it's difficult. But you've got to be scoring them for me. And you look at, there was times where you thought as if he could have done, bet. But that's the story of the life of a striker. I mean, everybody's looking for perfection. You don't always get it, Robert. And for me, and I've criticised both of them myself. And there's times where they would probably look at their own performance and say they have to be doing better. But nobody can argue with their numbers. Nobody can argue with them. And, it's been a good return from both strikers. And, but I look at everybody thought when Kyogo was leaving that Adam Idah, this was going to be his chance. And it's not materialised like that. Yeah, he's had more opportunities, but he was going to be Celtic's number 9 between, the January time to the end of the season. But as we say, Maeda has been the one who's found himself through the middle. Most of it, and probably if it wasn't for Jota's injury, that's who would be playing through the middle.
I mean, Adam Idah, Boyd, he cost £9 million last summer. Do you think Celtic would consider offers for him this summer if they're looking to bring in another centre forward?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think they'll be able to recoup that back. I don't think that will be the case. And I think Brendan, he likes having, that big physical striker there as well, because we have seen it in games, where he's caused the opposition problems. He's asked questions of the defenders. He's went and won his headers, and that might be a frustration as well. Where there's sometimes you see him, bully centre backs about. Sometimes barging into them, causing havoc. That allows other players to go and do what they need to do. Whether he's coming off into, dropping into that midfield area, trying to link it up, allows Maeda's runs in behind because there's more space. It allows Nicholas Kuhn to come in and maybe try and bounce, the ball off him and try and create 1-2s in and around that area. But I think his game intelligence has got better. His all-round game has improved. But I can understand why both of them. I've been there myself when you feel as if sometimes when you're dropping into midfield, it's just congestion because there's enough bodies in there. When teams come and sit in against you, then you're dropping. Sometimes as a striker, it's best just to stay out of the way, and allow everybody else to do what they need to do. But saying that, when the ball arrives in the box, you've got to be there, and that's maybe something that both of them have been, guilty of not doing this season is being in around the area when the opportunities are being created. Because I look at, even Dessers yesterday, I thought a lot of his game was in the left hand side. Whether that was the way Rangers set up, and it probably was, because you felt as if Bajrami was on Callum McGregor not moving and Czerny and Dessers were wide. But he obviously got his goal. But I can understand when people will look at, he's hardly done any touches. Both of them have not really done this, have not done that. But I also get where they're coming from in terms of staying away and not going into the area and congesting that midfield area. So, it is, everybody wants perfection. You're never going to get it. And I'll say it again, both the strikers, their numbers are decent.
It's interesting insight there, Boydie, actually, because as you say, I think Cyriel Dessers in the first half, before he scored his goal, had touched the ball 4 times.
Yeah.
As a layman myself, I'm thinking that's not enough. He's not got enough involvement in the game. I was critical of him of that when he first came to Rangers. I remember having a conversation with you about it. But you see it differently. You think that's okay. You think as long as when the cross comes in or the ball comes into the box, he's alive at that moment. You think that's fine? So interesting.
As I said to you, I think that there is different roles that strikers will play. I felt as if when it was, for example, myself and Kenny would go and drop into areas and look to go in the ball. But if both of us done that, the team just became congested. Kenny would maybe go and stretch in behind a few times, and then I would maybe come off a few. But you look at it, I think if everybody goes towards the ball, and that's what I think that you listen to some managers and people speaking, you've got to have players that are prepared to run off the ball. You've got to just to move things about, and Celtic have got that. You look at but for me, that allows the striker, or it should allow the striker space to work on a centre back or down the sides of both of them. And when you see a lot of Idah Dessers' goals or his movement, that's what happens. Whereas if he goes and gets linked up, if he goes and gets involved in the play, and that doesn't happen. It won't happen, because you've got to, sometimes even if it's the right hand side, you're coming away the other side to then come back across the front of defenders. But I always feel as if we're always looking at numbers. We're looking at what you've done in a game. Everybody tells us that scoring goals is the hardest part of the game. So I mean, both the numbers are good. They might not. I mean, it's not. Look at Haaland. Haaland gets. He's got his critics because he doesn't come and get involved in the game, but nobody could argue his numbers. And I'm not comparing, Idah and Cyriel Dessers to Haaland. But in terms of a striker, they don't get involved in the play. They won't get involved in it. And that's maybe something that I think through time, because of, say, you go back to Barcelona and Pep Guardiola's team right now, it's been the false nine, and everybody's came and linked up and wanted touches. And then you look at strikers, in terms of the amount of touches of the ball they've had, you expect that from everybody. But for me, I don't get bogged down with it, because as long as you come alive when it's in and around your area and you're scoring goals, then you're doing your job.
Do you think Cyriel Dessers would have been sitting in the changing room, Boyd, after the game yesterday, pretty pleased with himself?
Well, he scored the goal. I felt as if he sacrificed himself a little bit. I do feel as if you look at, I don't know, the angle you would have had right in the main stand watching the game, but for where we were in the corner, you could see he was more or less on that left hand side between Carter Vickers and Ralston, and that was maybe one of the reasons why he didn't have as many touches as people would expect, because he done a lot of running, he done a lot of chasing around to try and stop Celtic getting out there, and it did work. It did work for a period of time. He's got his goal. I thought, in terms of what we've seen from Cyriel Dessers as well, his hold up play, it's been decent. I wouldn't say it's been terrible. His hold up play, his link up play has been decent. He's got himself into areas. What's he, 25 goals for the season? Yeah. It's a good return. It is a good return. But because, once again, Rangers they ain't going to win anything, you then start to look and criticise and where could we improve. And there's been moments in the season when your striker has missed chances and you think that was a pivotal moment if he'd have scored there. And even last year, you go back to, I think it was Dingwall with that chance just before half time. There's big moments as strikers that if you are not getting involved in the play as such and contributing that way, when it comes in and around the area, you've got to pounce. And that's maybe something that, for both of them, they could improve on. In terms of when they aren't getting involved in the play, you have to make sure that when the chances come, they are in the back of the net. The numbers are good, but it's like every other striker; they could always score more.
That's the thing, Boyd. I think you touched on it there. His numbers are decent, but there's not enough other players around him. And you say there's not enough runners off him. But for me to justify him playing that role, because if you're going to play that role, like maybe you did at times, you'd Kenny Miller running off you, you'd support. Cyriel Dessers doesn't have that right now.
Well, I think you only need to look at if we're comparing the both teams, and Cyriel Dessers' numbers are good, Cherny's are good for that area, but you then go after that, Egerman has been in and out. His numbers are decent for considering it's his first season really, but you then go elsewhere. Not really a lot of goals anywhere else in that Rangers team, is there? Whereas you look at Celtic, and you've got Kyogo, is obviously left. You've got Maeda, you've got Idah, you've got Jota's came in and scored a few goals as well. You've got Nicholas Kuhn. And the three midfielders, McGregor, Hatate and Engels, they're all in decent numbers for midfielders. So that's the thing for Celtic in terms of scoring goals. It's been spread out, and even if the strikers haven't been producing, unbelievable numbers as such like Maeda has, but elsewhere, everybody's chipped in and done their job at Celtic, and they've been able to win games of football. Whereas at Rangers, you feel as if Czerny wasn't coming up with that bit of magic, if Dessers wasn't scoring, there wasn't really much else happening. And there's no doubt, I think, when you look at Rangers midfielders, yeah, they might be a different type, but it is, for me, something they need to add. I know Bajrami came in for a lot of money in the summer. I mean, I think he's got 2 league goals, is it? So for me, it has to improve. It has to improve. The goal scoring has to be spread throughout the team. I think the days where you're depending or relying on your number 9 and number 10, old school 2 strikers up front. You might have a winger chipping in with 7 or 8 goals, but your 2 strikers were getting 20 odds. I think they're gone. And I think for me, looking at it, like 2 strikers playing as a 9 and a 10 up front there, like a Haitley McCoyster, myself and Kenny, partnerships like that. But if you're not playing with the 2 and you're playing with the 1 up, everybody else needs to chip in, and Celtic have definitely had that. And that's one of the main reasons why I think they are. In terms of that consistency and that far ahead. I mean, we've spoken about it before, Robert, and even during the game yesterday when you're speaking to the boys off camp, there's not a lot between the 2 teams in a one-off game, but Celtic have got that consistency that they've shown throughout a period of time now, not only this season, throughout a period of time now, when they know, even if they're not playing well, and that's going back to the what I'm saying, if somebody's not playing well, there's always someone else to score. Rangers have been too reliant on 1 or 2 players to do it, and it's not enough when you're at a club that teams come and sit in, and it's hard to break down. You can't depend on 1 or 2 players to do it week in, week out. You need that spread throughout the team. And, Celtic have definitely got that, and it's something that Rangers need to get.
Where does this leave Barry Ferguson, Boydie? Because he spoke after the game again yesterday. Maybe didn't say something he's not said before, but he's kind of doubled down on the fact that he really wants a job. He firmly believes he can make Rangers better, and he wants the opportunity to talk to the 49ers guys if and when they come in. I think that's only a matter of weeks away from being completed. Do you still think Barry Ferguson is a realistic contender for the job, and you think he could take Rangers forward as he believes he can?
I think he will have a chat. He will be in the running. There's no getting away from it. If you've got someone there right now who, and I said that, before the game yesterday as well, there's more to football management, coaching. There's more to that than, I know everybody just looks at the pitch, but there's more to that, especially at big clubs. I think you've got to, obviously, in terms of the media, in terms of the scrutiny you're under every single day, and also the working environment. I think if you go and speak to anybody that was there with the previous regime, they would say the working environment in terms of in and around the training ground, in and around Ibrox, is definitely better. And that's not maybe the way that Philip Clement managed in the past, and he felt as if the group was all I had to look after. But there's a responsibility for staff and around the place as well. And I think Barry's obviously lifted the morale within the training centre, within Ibrox. But you're then going back to, it's not good enough on the pitch. You can't get away from that. I mean, Barry has now seen it firsthand. He's done the radio in the past. He's done, he said his column. He's spoken in terms of what he thought was wrong and what needed to be done with Rangers. But now he's been inside, and it's been an eye opener. I mean, that was his words. That it's been a real eye opener to what has actually been going on, or what is going on. And I think if you look at it and listen to what he's saying, I don't think it's a quick fix. There's a lot of people in there on big contracts, on long contracts, that I don't really see many of them having a future at a football club. They've not contributed enough. And I know, people say, Rangers, they need to get away from comparing themselves to Celtic in terms of the money that's been spent, because Rangers have spent money. There's no getting away from it. They have spent money. And this whole thing of, depending on getting to the latter stages of Europe, or we're still in Europe, look at, there's some glamour ties and things like that. Your bread and butter is domestic football. And once again, it's been another disappointing season for Rangers. Going back to the job, I think I've been pretty open right from the start. I thought that Barry was brought in to do a job. I knew that once he was in, he would have the bug, the buzz, and he would want to take it on. And I don't think he's saying anything that anybody else wouldn't say if they're in that position right now. For me, I think there will be a change. I think, with the new ownership coming in, they will want to bring in their own guy as such. But that's been my thoughts right from the off. I might be wrong. I mean, if I would like to think that Barry will have a discussion with him, because he's the man right now that knows exactly what's going on and knows exactly what needs to be done. And who's to say if Barry sits down there and actually, because it will be an interview. I mean, there's no getting away from it. I mean, they might look at what they've done between now and when they came into now. But it'll be a fresh approach, sitting down with new people and explaining to them where you feel as if you can take the club. It's not a case of coming in and ticking the club over and trying to get through in Europe and try to get to the end of the season, because there wasn't anything for Rangers to do, even if you go back then. I mean, they were never going to win anything. So I think that the conversation changes now, and it will be a case of what can you do with the football club going forward for a number of years. Because for me, I don't think Rangers can turn around and give someone the keys to the castle, as the saying goes. In terms, there's another lump of money, go and spend that, because again, it's been manager after manager after manager has been given money. They've went and spent it. You've got players on long contracts on big money that you probably struggle to get out the door, and you're now looking at that Rangers are going to have to invest again in the summer. We can't keep saying every single year, and we do it every single year. All we say is, Rangers need a rebuild. Rangers need a rebuild. It can't continue. And for me, that is because of they have given the manager control to go and get players. Yeah, there'll be a process it needs to go through in terms of with the recruitment, but I think the club needs to have an identity as well. And for me, they would be, somebody who, if the manager does move on, whoever it is, if he moves on a few years, you shouldn't have to rip everything up and go down a different avenue. It should just be somebody who is similar to the manager you've has just moved on, and the club goes forward. Because, and I know you get to a stage where you do need a change, but sometimes ripping everything up, and that's what Rangers have done. You go back to Gerrard. I mean, he had the 2 10s in behind the main striker. Gio came in after that, and it was back to being wide, open, expansive. You then come back to Michael Beale was back with the 2 10s, and everything was trying to go through the middle. Then Philip Clement came in. It was wider, but it was more direct as well. So, for me, I think the club is in terms of managers, they've done well in certain games and they've got results. But Rangers need to find someone who's going to take the club forward and get results consistently, because as I said, it's not been good enough now for a number of years. And as I said, I think Barry will be in the conversation. He will speak to him, but I've been clear right from the start. I felt as if Barry would have that 2-3 months, whatever it was, to take Rangers to there, and then because there was still the rumours were there that that they were going to be taken over in the summer, and I don't that's going to happen. And I personally still expect Rangers to go a different route.
With that in mind, Boydie, who would you like to get the job?
Well, but I don't know. I think in terms of, and I'm not sitting here, I don't know who, when the takeover's complete, what type of money there's going to be. Are you going to see? I don't expect them to come in and say, listen, there's millions and millions and millions of pounds going spent. So I mean, for me, it will have to be someone who can coach, because there is no doubt that this group of players, going back to what I'm saying, the club needs to have a structure there, whether it's a head coach, whether it's a manager. They need to get someone who is the right fit I mean, that doesn't need to be a Rangers man as such. It doesn't mean to be a case of, he gets it. What it needs to be is someone who's going to win games of football. Find a way to win games of football. Find a way to make players better. Find a way to make the team better. Barry's the exact same as the rest that have been before him. He has got performances and levels out of the team in certain games, but consistently they've failed to do it again. I mean, Rangers haven't won, 7 games now? Haven't won since the 2nd of February at Ibrox. We're in May. Just doesn't. I mean, it's not right. It's not right.
Yeah.
So like in terms of, I don't know, what type of money is going to come into, for them. Because I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's the exact same as players. If there is millions and millions of pounds coming, then they'll be shopping in a different market. Whereas if that's the way you're going to go, then you'll be needing a manager who can then deal with that type of player. So I mean, I don't think we there can be speculation, but in terms of who it's going to be, I think you need to wait till the takeover and then listen to what they're saying when they come in terms of what type of money is there, what is their vision to go forward, and then we can all start to put something together and say, yeah, that's the type of manager that they'll be looking for, or that's the type of coach that they'll be looking for from there. But right now, as I said, everything's up there.
Well, from a relatively inexperienced manager in Barry Ferguson to a vastly experienced manager in John McGlynn. As I say, you went to the PFA Awards last night, and John McGlynn was named Manager of the Year. A popular choice?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at back-to-back promotions, there's no doubt that John McGlynn's done a fantastic job. He's obviously been linked with the Hearts job as well, and that's a credit to himself and his staff and the players for the job that they have achieved. Back-to-back promotions is going to be totally different for them next year. I like the way they play. Yes, it's taken them a few weeks longer than they probably expected to get it over the line, but I do like the way they play. I think they've shown that even against the teams from the Premiership. I mean, even when they went to Celtic Park, you thought, well, they're a good team because some decent players there that can cause problems. I think that he's obviously done well. I mean, because of Celtic's success over a period of time now, trebles just seem to be looked upon as just the norm. If any manager had won, I mean, I know he's not won it yet, but I mean, he will. If Brendan Rodgers is to go and deliver another treble, I mean, how can anybody argue about him being manager of the year? Do you know what I mean? But because of Celtic's success, it's probably been overlooked. David Gray was obviously in the running as well and deserves a mention. I thought that, when you look at the start he had, it'd be quite easy, and it was probably getting to the stage where Hibs would have been looking and thinking, we're going to have to get rid of another manager here. But there was a bigger picture there, and they've seen it because there was a few games. We've done a few columns on it as well, where that there was games where you felt as if it was only a matter of time before it turned for Hibs. They had been playing well, the silly mistakes, a few sending offs here and there, and bad decision making on the pitch cost them games at the start. But it's turned and they've been on a fantastic run. I mean, the other one as well. I mean, and I know similar to David Gray, had a large period of time when he wasn't successful. But you go back to Jimmy Tillene at the start that they had. I mean, it looks as if Hibs will probably just put them to that third place. But for the start that Aberdeen had, they had a period where they were woeful. But he's been to one semi-final, and he's in the final of another. So it's not a bad return for someone as well in the first seasons. I mean, I think Jim Goodwin coming up for the Championship, the job that he's done at Dundee United deserves a mention. Stephen Robinson again, even getting that top 6. So there is managers out there who have had really, really good seasons. Even in the Championship, you look at, as I said, John McGlynn and what he's done. But I mean, Davy Martindale, a team going down, you don't usually see them bouncing back. They've got a chance to do that, albeit through the playoffs. But I mean, I think for the squad that Davy had, and he's had to rebuild that. There has been managers out there. I mean, Doug Emery as well has done a fantastic job for me at Morton. I don't think they're the biggest budget in the league, but to stay where they, in the Championship, Barry Robson's come in. We could go on and on and on. I mean, they finished the season strong, but just lost out in the playoffs. But no, I think in terms of managers, there's a good bunch in our leagues right now that are doing well. So long may that continue.
you just about named every manager in Scotland there, Boyd.
I know.
At the bottom end of the table, St Johnstone, I've just called it a minute or two ago. I think they're gone. I think it's now a foregone conclusion. Not exactly breaking news, it has to be said. How do you think it's going to shape up in the final few games? Obviously, Ross County 35 points, Dundee a couple above them.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that there.
Kelly and 41. I think Kelly look as though they're maybe just about safe. Is it between Dundee and Ross County now in the final games?
Yeah, you could say that. I think obviously. I think when you look at it, Kilmarnock probably. I think I've done enough. Obviously, you would say Dundee could still catch Kilmarnock, but I don't think Ross County. So Johnstone definitely won't. But I don't think Ross County can catch them either. For me, I think 6 points is a big ask for Ross County. And obviously the way the fixtures are as well. Dundee play Kilmarnock at the weekend at Rugby Park. So if Kilmarnock to win that, then that's that done as well. So for Dundee's point of view, listen, it's been a disappointing season. They obviously lost their star man, to Celtic. But I think we've been saying it for weeks. St Johnstone are going. Ross County have they were in a decent position, but they've just dropped a position more or less every single week. Now find themselves in that dreaded playoff, and it's an anxious wait for those two games to come along, and but they've been there before. Especially, there was some games where they felt, the Partick Thistle one, you felt as if they were dead and buried, but managed to find a way. I still think whoever is in that 11th probably will have enough to stay up. Obviously the teams in the Championship will think different, but there's some big games when you look at St Johnstone as well. Obviously Ross County the weekend, where they need to win. There's no getting away from it. They then go to Tynecastle. They need to win, and then they'll finish at home to Dundee. So for them to get 9 points for the last 3 games, it's a huge ask considering the points tally so far. And they don't even look as if, when you look at even the weekend there as well, a home game, really poor again. Never really laid a glove on Kilmarnock, did they? Derek McInnes just done a job on them. You always felt as if Kilmarnock had more than enough to get away from that 11th place. But for me, I don't think, as I said, Dundee can obviously catch Kilmarnock. I don't think Ross County can catch Kilmarnock either. So St Johnstone's away. So for me, it's obviously between Dundee and Ross County.
Hardly a big call there, Boyd, but we'll take it. Listen, thanks very much for joining us today. Congratulations to all who won their awards last night. Delighted for young Lennon Miller in particular. Fantastic for him to be named Young Player of the Year. Boydie, I'll let you get back to your Alka-Seltzer. Have a wee lie down, son. Thanks for joining us.
You'll send me to sleep. Bye.